Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 3 and episode number 209 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah, it's Friday, kiddies. I'm feeling groovy. Today, recording day is Friday, September 15th. 2023, and it looks like it will be a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge, and we will crack 20 today, get to 21. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and with me, as always, is my dear friend, Mr. Grizzly. Thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We have a Friday morning bite for you. But before we do anything else, let's do the most important thing we do on this show. And that's say hello to you, Mr. Grizzly, and ask you, how's your mental health doing today?
Good morning, Mr. Beaver. I'm on my first cup of coffee. I've been awake since about 4-ish and went back to sleep. I didn't sleep well last night, so I'm a little grumpy at the moment. So I need more of this.
Ooh, grumpy grizzly.
Yeah, I'm a grumpy grizzly bear this morning. I tossed and turned throughout the night, and it happens. Sometimes that's just how it is. Wake up on the wrong side of the bed, proverbially. Thank you.
I like to help.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I did wake up on the correct side of the bed. I just anyway, as the saying goes. So yeah, I'm a little grumpy at the moment. So let me get some coffee into me, and we'll get chatting, and I'll start to feel better in due time, I'm sure.
There's nothing like waking up on the right side of the bed when the right side of the bed is right up against the wall.
Mine's in the middle of the room. I keep it in the middle of the room intentionally.
See, now if we had a big budget right now when you were talking about the coffee, right?
Mhm.
That's where we would have had something like splice in, like a sort of like a scene from ER. Doot, 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 IV, stat, coffee. Okay, we got him. Don't leave us now.
I just have to take some time to put that together.
Beep, beep, beep.
Hook it up to my vein.
We're losing him. We're losing him. Make an espresso. Beep.
An Americano would be good. There's more of it.
No, not the espresso. This is an emergency.
Cafe Americano, please. Would you like some room for cream? No.
No, just
No. Don't be silly. Oh, Jason. No cream in the Americano. It's just black, like my heart.
Sounds like it could have been a Betty Davis line.
Oh, yeah. Well, if there's a guy, Jason Rees, and he's a comedian from New Zealand, and he does this whole series of things. The guy who invents measurement, the guy who invents games, the guy who invents, and it's always this drunken guy with a martini glass, and his assistant Jason is taking notes. Jason has glasses, and he's very Clark Kent serious, and the other fella's like always a little bit inebriated. It's like, let's give you a system of measurement. This is how we measure things. I'm going to call somebody. Give me 3 barley cones. No, make it 2 barley cones. Okay, 2 barley cones, but they're going to vary in size. So 2 barley cones, Jason. Okay, and what are we going to call that? An inch. We'll call that an inch. It's a brilliant series. You got to find him on the TikTok. He's really funny.
It sounds like it's Burns and Smithers, except for Burns, instead of him being evil, he's just a bit of a sot.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. It's kind of what it is.
Oh, man. All right. Well, at my end, if you think that I'm sounding and looking particularly chipper, it's because I slept a full night.
Oh, well, there you go. Rub it in, you bastard.
I was actually like listening to stuff to do the show, and I actually fell asleep while doing it. So when I woke up, I got up and just brought my lovely beaver tail to the bedroom and put my head down, and the alarm actually woke me up.
Oh, wow.
This morning.
Right on through to the other side.
Right on through to the other side.
Wow.
Thank you, universe.
Color me envious.
I'm not going to complain. Not trying to rub it in, my friend. It's been a long time coming.
No, I didn't see it that way.
I know.
Color me envious. That's
I know it. It's the same thing for me too. Sometimes we're at a restaurant, something like, and somebody decides to order a piece of cake, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, that's not terrible. It's like, why would I feel terrible because you're enjoying cake just because I can't eat it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, enjoy the cake, please. Let me see you enjoy it.
People are allowed to enjoy things.
Yes, let me live vicariously through you. Really enjoy that cake. All right, kiddies. We have the show for you today, but before we start, of course, in honor of our dear friend Mateo.
Oh, with the Cheerios, the Honey Nut Cheerios?
Yes,
or just the regular Cheerios?
Cheerios is something that he likes. So from now on, it's no longer Honey Nut Cheerios, but it's Honey Nut Mateos.
Oh, Honey Nut Mateos.
Yes, I'm now.
I got to get you to flip your microphone around because it's upside down. You'd have to unplug it, flip it, turn it because it's upside down.
Oh,
the logo on it's upside down.
Okay, hold on, I'll do that.
Yeah. Just unplug, flip, spin. There we go. See? Yeah, there you go. And see that little dot at the back? That's the indication that it's upright.
Okay.
On the black bar. Yeah.
I'm good. I'm not great with directions if they're written down, but I'm great with choreography.
Well, there you go. We just choreographed that. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, we don't want to be accused of I don't know, malfeasance or anything. The name is on the product, so let's.
Gotcha. It's all about the port de bras. It's all about the port de bras, kiddies, how you carry your arms.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, port.
Oh, I thought you said Paul de Bras. I'm like, I never met him.
Great guy. All right, kiddies. Do you have anything with which you'd like to start, Mr. Grizzly? Or do you want me to just
well, I do have this article that I clipped from the Globe and Mail just the other day. It's was written by Marcia Lederman. Lederman. I assume it's Lederman. Could be Letterman. I'm not sure. And she says the byline is Pierre Poilievre says hope is a leader's most important job. It's not. I'm just going to flash the article on the screen here. For those at home watching, let me know and I can DM you the article if you like. But it talks about, it's the most important job of any leader is to bring hope. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre told an enthusiastic crowd, even if it was somewhat depleted nearing the end of his marathon speech at the party's convention on Friday. But is it really? Unlike many other declarations made in that speech, this particular statement is a little tricky to fact check because it's not exactly black and white. But I'm going with no. A leader has many important jobs. Bringing hope in particular, false hope, or hope that only applies to certain people, should not be job number one. Creating the circumstances around which hope can be justified, now that's a worthy aspiration for our leaders. They should lay out policies that can logically lead to hopes being satisfied and not just paint a picture of what they think might look like. And Mr. Poilievre was a strange picture at that. Employing Leave It to Beaver-esque imagery, Mr. Poilievre conjured that the Canada he apparently finds ideal and hope voters do too. Couples on front porches of homes they worked hard to acquire. Kids playing one last round of street hockey before going to bed without argument. A Canadian flag in the front yard, shopkeepers sweeping storefronts and waving to seniors driving by. How are you doing today, Mrs. Cleaver? That couple on the front porch with the flag has a cold drink in one hand, a paycheck in the other. They look into each other's eyes in a way that can only say, the hard work paid off. The sacrifices were worth it because finally we're home. What sort of retro vision of Canada is this? Who wrote this nonsense version of Make Canada Great Again? Our paychecks are direct deposited now. Didn't I say that? Mr. Poilievre, and unfortunately, that Canadian flag has been sullied by your pals in that convoy that occupied Ottawa for weeks last year. Or was that your point? With the Prime Minister working so hard to erase our memories, Mr. Poilievre stated, it's easy to forget how good life was and how good it can be. But for whom was life so good? Canada's ideal future cannot be about going back to some idyllic pastoral suburban dream that Mr. Poilievre's speechwriters have conjured from selective memory and that can no longer logically exist. The future we need a leader to be thinking about is one where we can all move forward to a more sustainable, inclusive, and yes, affordable society. And red herrings like suggesting Justin Trudeau is working so hard to erase good memories are just insulting to Canadians' intelligence. Are referring to the hell Mr. Trudeau has caused to people's lives, or stating that before Mr. Trudeau came to power, Canada was rich, affordable, and safe. Anyone with half a molecule of critical thinking skills can tear those statements apart. Further, the good old days weren't so good for everyone. A lot of people, women, LGBTQ folks, people we called visible minorities, were barred from this selective version of a picture-perfect Canada that Mr. Poilievre thrilled his audience with. When he wrapped it up by declaring, these are our people, this is our country, to whom was he referring? To whom does he believe this country belongs? Over and over, Mr. Poilievre promised common sense. Some of us are old enough to remember Mike Harris's common sense revolution and to remember that it wasn't so great for a lot of Ontarians. Just ask the people of Walkerton, Ontario about their water, or the public sector workers whose jobs or salaries were cut, or the people struggling on social assistance who were told to budget with a welfare diet, with helpful suggestions such as haggling with shopkeepers over the price of dented cans of tuna. Hope is what Canadians need now more than ever, Mr. Poilievre said. But hope without reason is folly. Further, our hopes need to be tailored to the reality around us. Climate change, population growth, the need for density, and a radically changing employment landscape. We need to be thinking about moving forward, not back to a lost time when certain people could afford single-family homes on cul-de-sacs or other streets quiet enough to safely host their kids' sport of choice. This false nostalgia is not productive. We are not all owed a house with a front porch when our country is burning and housing is scarce. And to pin that on Justin Trudeau alone is simplistic and dishonest. Mr. Poilievre is smart enough to know that. Let's hope Canadian voters will be too.
Ooh, who wrote that again?
Sorry, I didn't realize I had that on the screen the whole time.
That's all right. That's all right.
Hang on, let me just Marsha, is it? Marcia Lederman, Lederman. I'm not sure if it's Letterman or Lederman.
I've never heard her name before, but I like the way she writes.
Well, it's an opinion piece, and here's the thing. I was kind of said the same thing the other day. I'm not so eloquently. I'm not as eloquent. I'm not a writer. I'm not that smart, but I can see through bullshit. And he just was shoveling it like crazy. Like I said, put your hip waders on. Actually, time for the chest waders because it's getting deep.
Mm-hmm. Like this, and
she nailed him.
But a lot of the questions: who is our?
Exactly. It's a dog whistle. It's a dog whistle to white people. The, as Stephen Harper said, old stock Canadians.
Yeah, our country, the real Canadians, because that's all the people that are using real.
Yes,
in that context, if they're calling and calling other people divisive, as soon as you say real, you've created a category of people who are unreal, I guess.
Well, it's this whole bit about sitting on the porch with a cold drink in one hand and a paycheck.
That's pure Americana.
And it's total bullshit.
But
because we're talking. Well, I mean, remember he railed on not too long ago about building high-density housing around transit nodes?
Yeah.
So basically apartments. What porch is there on an apartment? There's no porch.
I know.
Maybe a balcony. I don't have one. Not every apartment has one.
Yeah. No,
it's conjured up. It's MAGA. It's MAGA is what it is.
It's best moments of the American dream.
That's what it is. It's leave it to Beaver, like she said.
Instead of the American flag flowing from it's the Canadian flag. Yeah. Instead of a beer and a paycheck, it's a cold drink and a paycheck.
Well, he wouldn't say beer. You got to remember a lot of his followers are reformers, so they're teetotaling religious zealots, so it can't be a beer.
Yes.
And I'm sure he pissed off a lot of them by visiting a couple of breweries this past year.
Yeah.
As he's been going on his campaign tour for a year now.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing with that speech, too, is that because, I mean, there were little, he said the word Davos once, but he didn't actually mention WEF. He dropped a little thing. So if you were paying attention, they were sprinkled through with one-word references, but you have to know the code. But he wasn't talking about them like this. So, I mean, if somebody wanted to stir up the pot, someone could say, oh, guys, did you hear that? Mm-hmm. He talked for a whole hour and something and never once mentioned vaccine mandates explicitly or the WEF or all those things. He was just talking about housing, and he's pivoting to the center just like O'Toole did. He's going to sell you out just like he sold out the convoy. Oh, yeah, he mentioned them in the speech. He mentioned truckers and had his wife do it too. But, oh, no. He's going to sell you out just like he sold out Jeremy McKenzie. Guys, pay attention. He's pivoting to the middle.
Yeah.
He's not talking about your stuff anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. He's losing his extreme right-wing base. Look, you can't unite the party because the party's not unitable because it's two different parties.
And he's got 2 years.
Yeah.
Because it seems that the Prime Minister made it very clear while he was talking that there's nothing happening before 2025. And we know that to know him is not to love him.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Jagmeet wouldn't be bringing down the government because he's biting off his own nose to spite his face.
Well, number one, his party's not ready. But number two, if the whole reason for the confidence and supply agreement in the first place was, and if we go back, remember, he said that his motivation was the birth of his first child.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there's a Canada he did not want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if Poilievre wins, the Canada he doesn't want to see is going to happen, and now his wife is pregnant with a second child.
Yeah, and I think that's a big motivational factor. I don't have children, but my partner does, and let's face it, any parent anywhere will do anything for their children to save them and make the world better for them and protect them and keep them warm and safe. So, here's somebody who is in a position to keep many millions of children warm and safe.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, pharmacare, dental care, child care.
And then before that, child tax credit, then the middle cut tax credit, which lifted children out of poverty, and then enshrining transgender rights into the Constitution, which will help transgender children, and
Yes.
like this legalizing pot, which will save a lot of people having criminal records,
Hmm.
especially for committing the crime of, let's say, driving or walking or hanging around a park while being Black or
Yeah.
Indigenous. Um, again, this prime minister has been transformative in many ways that people are not recognizing yet.
You know, you're absolutely right. And in ways like when I look back at Lester B. Pearson, what he did in a minority government,
Mm.
unbelievable when you think
And
about it.
and this with one hand tied behind his back, with Trump
Yes.
for 4 years trying to sabotage the Canadian economy, and then China trying to sabotage the Canadian economy for
Then
another
a
2
global
years.
pandemic.
The two world's biggest superpowers, trying to sabotage our economy, and then a global pandemic. Let's see you do that, Harper.
Transformative.
Harper had the 2008 crisis,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
but
yeah.
as I said on the other show, the global pandemic economically made that look like an amusement park ride.
Yes.
When we came back from 2008, there weren't supply chain issues, and there weren't other countries that weren't producing microchips because
No.
they were building hospitals quickly instead to take care of their people, the people that would be producing the chips and all that kind of stuff, right? That shipping routes were closed, that you didn't have to deal with that like this. Oh, yeah, and then a whole bunch of people deciding that they were going to give the whole nation an entire bear hug
Mm-hmm.
and choke off all the citizens off basic supplies that they need.
Children.
And then occupy the capital.
Children, but not even misbehaving children. Like, it's Damien.
I know.
Evil children.
Just like, don't even come.
Children of the corn.
Right. And then they're talking about, all the time, like Trudeau added so much more to the debt until the pandemic. If you're actually looking at data from that, like, liberal.
He was paying it down.
No, he wasn't paying that down.
No.
But from that liberal think tank, I believe called the Frasier Institute.
Oh, the Frasier.
Yeah. Very
liberal
liberal.
think tank.
Very liberal think tank. If you actually look at their stuff, with debt per prime minister and all that kind of stuff. Well, when you're looking at debt per prime minister per capita,
mm-hmm.
up until the pandemic, even though Prime Minister Trudeau was spending more and taking on the small deficits
mm-hmm.
to make up for the deficits that Harper created, actual deficits in programs by announcing programs, getting all the credit, and then pulling the funding.
Yeah.
Right. That's the other way he balanced budgets. Sold the GM shares, but then announced it, got all the credit, and then made sure that the funding never actually got there, thus creating deficits in the programs that had to be filled.
Yeah.
Because people were expecting that money and had planned on it.
And we're going to give you all this money so you can build things. Excellent. Okay, we're going to get everybody crewed up and ready to go. Get your PPE, get your shovels. Okay, we're ready. Yeah,
and then talks to the guy who has the responsibility for making the money available. If you can hold back like 10% of it, or just
Wait, what? You want me to what? No, we got.
You can slow walk that.
We've paid people. We've got people hired and ready to go. No, that's not happening. I've decided not to fund that fully.
But just not to announce it.
Just don't say anything. Just slowly, fire people and shut the program down when nobody's looking.
Yep. So,
overpromise, don't deliver.
Yeah, but if you're looking at debt, you see it goes up a little bit higher from Harper, and then you see the pandemic, and then it goes up, right?
Mm.
But if you're looking at debt per capita, it's actually even.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but
to where Harper had left it.
Didn't just this most recent budget that passed, or was it the one before? I don't recall. The numbers actually showed where they were starting to pay down some of the money that was accrued in debt during the first days of the pandemic.
Yes. Yeah. That is indeed happening because they had recovered more than 100% of the jobs.
Right. Yes. So the money started rolling in quick.
So the money started rolling in. And because of the way that we made sure that people remained whole, even though there were supply chain issues and all that kind of stuff, when the economy came back, we were able to just jump back in much more quickly than many other nations.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the good GDP numbers and all that kind of stuff that we've been.
Right.
Hence the reason for which the Bank of Canada has needed to raise interest rates, because in fact we came out of it almost too good. Which is kind of weird to say because of food and housing inflation, but for all the structural elements of the economy. So that, if food and housing inflation start to go down, that the economy is ready to handle that. All that stuff has been taken care of and handled quite well, right? I mean, there's only so much you can do. You can't control world global prices. So all they can do is create the best conditions for us to be able to deal with them. And that's what he's been working on. So you have all of this going on. And then PP had his big convention, and he has this big speech, which was broadcast to the nation, because that's a big moment in any party's, in any leader's career. The prime minister, for his part, got back and was having what was called a caucus retreat. So it's not a convention, right? There aren't people coming over. They're not delegates. They're not voting on resolutions. But it's probably, since the convention, the biggest moment that the prime minister will have. So, that is statesmanlike. Yes, because the whole caucus will be there. Right. So when he's going to make his speech, everybody will be behind. There'll be lots of clapping and all that kind of stuff, right? So it can be an occasion to make a statement to the nation of some kind. So I decided that I wanted, he's made 2 announcements. He made the announcement in London, which I did not watch, but I was interested, and I will, though, because I have it listed. But what I wanted to watch first was the one he made yesterday, because that was the end of the retreat and everybody would be there. So to see what, if anybody politically was paying attention to what the prime minister would have to say, is that after he came back from his big trip, after the entire summer, with all this caucus behind him, after everybody met and talked, where are we at? Right? I haven't gotten entirely through it. That's one of the reasons I was late today. So we'll probably watch the end together.
Okay.
But you get some ideas of where it is he might be going, how it is he's going to handle things. Yesterday we talked about the strategy, the announcement, the housing, pardon me, the housing announcement in London, and how, given that there are many cities in Canada, and this seems to be a template, that what we're going to have is a series of these announcements over time,
Right.
and building the image of a prime minister who is working collaboratively with municipalities and other partners in order to get stuff done. Seemingly, I'm guessing, if everything follows the London model, maybe with funding at least enough that might tackle the homelessness issue
One would hope.
a bit more. Because if in a year or so you can reduce by a certain amount the amount of homelessness that everybody on the street walking by notice, that could be a way. It's like it still doesn't get a whole bunch of people into apartments or whatnot, but at least they notice that things are improving pretty quickly. So that could be a strategy there, but it also creates a series of positive announcements with him doing positive things, working positively with people and proactively, whereas PP's just out there telling us how everything is broken. The other thing is that PP's big announcement, housing announcement strategy, the same one he made in his speech. So he basically re-announced that, his 2 plans. His plan is basically the Housing Accelerator Program plan that Trudeau and the Liberals passed in 2001, except
Right.
he has more sticks. He will punish cities that don't
Yeah, I
meet
saw
the
that.
targets, whereas the prime minister does not plan to punish cities that don't meet. If you don't meet the targets, trust me, you're going to have other problems as a city anyway. You don't need to be further punished.
Well, this is the thing, and the other thing I noticed about his help, whatever I don't know what you want. He's setting up a snitch line for NIMBYs.
Yeah, they
A
love
NIMBYism snitch line, like
that's. And again, but remember, these are the people that are calling everybody else divisive.
Yeah.
Snitch on your neighbor.
Yeah. because he's a NIMBY, because they don't want this in their backyard. I'm like, you'd be the first guy to be that NIMBY.
Right.
You'd be the. I'll tell
The
you
guy
what.
doesn't
Why don't
want
we
the
set up a homeless shelter next to Stornoway?
The guy doesn't want the governor at the Bank of Canada, doesn't want the prime minister in his seat, doesn't want journalists at his convention, doesn't want liberals to show up as observers at his convention. I mean, come on. He's already shown us the kind of guy he is.
Check it.
Ooh la
Step
la
over.
la
There you
la
go.
la
Look,
la.
she's got the new hat. The new hat.
Fashion, baby.
Turn. There you go. See?
Ooh.
There's the new hat. See you. Okay. Have a good day.
That's love. I love love.
Mm.
Ooh, that was that Fox modeling the merch.
Yeah, I got a new hat as well. So
I like it. All right. So that's sort of laying the groundwork. So PP, and this is not the first time, right? I think there was another strategy recently where Poilievre saying, "No, this is my strategy," and turns out it was
they stole it.
Yeah, Mark Gerritsen was mentioning that in the interview. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. So basically, yes, it was. And now like Linda M says, Skippy's taking credit for the Trudeau announcement, claiming he stole the idea from them, but he actually stole the idea from the Housing Accelerator Fund. He just decided, like, if you don't do it my way, I'm going to punish you. The liberal way is if you don't do it, you just don't get the additional money. But I'm not going to like then go and take a kneecap to you, take a baseball bat to the kneecaps of your city as well.
Well, he's trying.
Right?
He sounds like a mob boss. I'm going to punish you if you don't do what I tell you.
Yes, but if you do, then you'll get a bonus. Ding, 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 ding. So I'm just, it's gimmicky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a tough guy. And meanwhile, you got the prime minister says, "I'm just going to put my head down and do the work."
Yeah, that's really the important factor here.
Okay, so I this press opportunity could have been something he decided to make big and flashy. And he's handling this as business as usual, which is a very interesting countertone, given that PP has decided that his way forward is to make a lot of noise and flap his arms a lot and move a lot of wind, but be very thin on the how. And even when he does try a how, it's, you have to build 15% or I will punish you.
It's not.
And then the people from whom he wants the increase in 15%, he refers to them as gatekeepers, which really motivates them.
Well, and
I'm pre-villainizing you, and then I'm telling you I'm going to punish you, because if you don't do things my way, while I'm claiming freedom.
But Trudeau's the dictator in all of this, right?
I mean, like this, and this is what I'm saying about you on TV in front of everybody, 40 million people. And now I'm going to show up to the table and say, "Hey guys, let's work together."
Well, and the worst part is some of his populism tactics are working on people who I know who are intelligent individuals with critical thinking skills, but as we've stated time and time again, don't have the time of day to delve into the true meaning behind his statements and get it to the actual nuts and bolts of what he's saying. So that's why we have a show, is because we want to inform Canadians as much as we possibly can. Now, I realize our footprint is very tiny, but the bigger we get, the more we can let people know the truth. And we will always tell the truth about every politician, every single one. If you do bad, we're going to tell on you. If you gaslight people, we're going to tell on you. If you lie to people, we're going to tell on you. That's our mandate, right? Yep. True facts all the time. And yeah.
Regardless of what we personally feel about them.
Exactly. Our bias. Our bias is center-left. We don't hide that.
Well, that's the whole point, is if you put your bias on the table, then everybody knows how to take what you're saying, when to take it with a grain of salt and when not to.
Exactly. And
there's nothing wrong with bias. Everybody has to just be honest about it and put it on the table.
Exactly. And again, we're not journalists. We're not reporters.
No. We curate the news and we comment on it.
And that's it. I wouldn't even call us pundits. Well, you could be because you're smarter than me, and you have more political
you
acumen.
are smart, my friend. Don't
Anyway.
stop doing that. Remember, there are 24 different types of intelligence:
I
spatial
suppose.
intelligence, musical intelligence, mathematical intelligence, just movement intelligence, social intelligence, emotional. Trust me, you are a smart man.
I'll
You
take
are
your
a
word
smart
for it.
man. I have nothing. You have nothing to envy me. Just we're smart in different ways and stuff, but you are plenty smart, my friend.
Oh, I don't envy anybody. I don't. I used to do that, and that damn near killed me, so I learned to stop doing that.
It's a useless emotion.
I can appreciate and respect, but envy is terrible. It will destroy you. Don't. It will destroy you. It
Yep.
really will.
Yep. For me, it's when I'm talking about like jealousy is terrible. For me, I'm okay with envy in certain instances,
Mhm.
but it's because envy is not, I don't want you to have it. It's
Mhm.
for me, envy is I'm happy you have it. I would just really like it too.
Yeah.
Wow, you got chocolate cake. Oh, I'd really love a slice. Enjoy your cake, but oh man, I'd love a slice. That's what envy is for me. Is oh my god, you went to see Joni Mitchell in concert? I would kill to go. I'm so happy. Tell me everything.
Mhm.
Oh god,
Was that your computer or mine?
I think that might have been yours.
Oh yeah, you can't hear what you didn't hear what I just heard. Sorry.
No. We have Kit Cassie give us a democracy something that you do alert quickly. Reminder to anyone in Manitoba: it's the last day to register to vote.
You have
So
to
there.
register in Manitoba?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think we all do. I mean, it all happens automatically because when we fill our taxes, we check that
Yeah.
box and we put on the list. But that's why I keep on telling people, go to Elections Manitoba, make sure that your name shows up.
Okay, because I know that I've shown up to vote in the past, and my name wasn't on any list. So
Oh
they
no,
just
yes, you can always show up on the day to vote too with the vouching and all that kind of stuff.
I just handed them my driver's license and a credit card
Yeah.
and a passport, and they're like, "Yeah, you're good."
Yeah. There's always a way to get on the vote but we do have because we do that, because we have that, we don't talk about our registration system, but we do have technically a registration system. It's just really seamless up here. There was another comment I saw earlier that I really wanted to read, but the kids are commenting a lot and fast. So I think it went by.
Well,
Oh, well.
here's one. Here's one from
There we
the
go.
Toronto Star from yesterday. It was keep notwithstanding clause out of school pronoun policies. Justice Minister states.
You're opening up a whole other subject.
Oh, sorry. This is Scott Moe being Scott Moe.
Yeah, but another example of freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Freedom,
Strip human
small
rights from
government.
kids.
This is not small government. This is government all up in your grill. But yes, Scott Moe is now thinking about, oh, you want to fight me on this thing like this? Well, I'm going to use the notwithstanding clause. Now, that immediately made me think of our interview with Murray Billett,
Mm-hmm.
because back when the Supreme Court had decided that it was illegal to discriminate against gay people, Alberta was considering using the notwithstanding clause at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, and then they decided ultimately against it because it would probably be political suicide.
Yes.
25 years later. The morning pour.
See, this will help me become a better human being. Better behaved human being, anyway.
So it's
less angry.
Yeah. So Scott Moe, I guess now.
Hey, Mo.
But I mean, he's literally talking now about using the Constitution to suppress a child's
right. Yeah.
right to be a human, to
And
dehumanize a child.
And he's convinced he's right. That's the worst part. He's convinced he's right. When you have justice ministers saying, dude, you're wrong. And millions of other Canadians saying, dude, you're wrong.
Yeah. So again, when coming back to that original article about a leader's most important job, that's not it. If Pierre Poilievre is saying that a leader's most important job is to give people hope,
well,
invoking the notwithstanding clause to force a child to live according to the state's values and the state's values as determined by the leader of the day, of the government of the stripe of the day, and not where society is in general. Whoa. Again, when we say this, like they don't want to govern, they want to rule over you, they want to lord over you. Hey, you kids, live as I say, be the people I say you should be, or else I will throw the full weight of the state and even the Constitution against you. Scott, no, maybe you want to pick on someone your own size. Maybe you want to pick on someone your own size, Scott Moe. Now, I know the children on whom you're praying are of superior intellect. So that would not be a fair fight. You'd lose.
Well, yeah.
But you're the premier. You have all the power, and they are children, vulnerable children. You pretty much can't get more defenseless. And you're already leading in the polls by so much. So you're just going to bulldoze all over their humanity and their rights just because you can. Because you don't even need this for a 2% bump in the polls. You're just doing this because you're mean. You're just doing this because you consider yourself their better, and they are lesser than. It's not okay. It never was okay. No. And it never will be okay. And politically, I hope you get yours for even suggesting it. It's just the people who are saying leave the kids alone are looking at the wrong people.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you, I don't know if you caught the tweet from, do we call it a tweet now or a post? I don't know. I'm still calling them tweets. From Pierre Poilievre about we got to end wokeism in school libraries.
Okay.
Did you see that? I'm just asking if you saw it.
No, I didn't see that, but I really want to discuss the Trudeau press conference.
Keep going. I'm just bringing up points, that's all. I'm trying to find it here. I don't know if you saw it or not. Well, let's bring up the press conference. I got the clip.
I know. Oh, my God, this guy.
What? Squirrel. ADHD. I can't help it. I don't have medication for that yet.
Not you. The thing you just told me. Just.
Well, no. Let's go to.
Exhausted.
Let's go to. Okay, no. We'll switch to.
No. I'm so exhausted by that. Not that. I'm so exhausted by this stuff. The woke stuff. The anti.
Oh. Well, no. Did you hear about what he did though?
No. That's why tell me.
Oh.
I'm just discouraged that there's more.
Oh, no. This one's classic. So he says, we need to end this liberal wokeism. Story in the CBC about schools in the province of Ontario pulling books off the shelf that were published before 2008.
Yes.
That is a Stephen Lecce, Minister of Education, progressive conservative policy. So he's saying end wokeism. I'm like, it's a conservative policy, Pierre. It's a conservative policy.
They removed the Diary of Anne Frank.
I know. Yeah. It's a conservative policy, though. That's the best part. He railed on about it, thinking liberal wokeism, but it's a conservative policy.
Yes, because it was written in such a way that it could be interpreted so broadly that the people that are living in fear of losing their livelihoods or their jobs are overcorrecting.
Yes, because the language written in that mandate, I don't know, bill, whatever you want to
Or
call it,
regulation or whatever it is, yeah.
it's just so broadly based. It's like, okay, just remove everything. That way we can't get into trouble. But and in doing so, it stirs up more trouble.
Yep.
It's
Just
yeah.
oh man.
But I love it. The minute he sees something that he immediately thinks that, oh, the Liberals did this, he just jumps on it, pounces on it immediately. Didn't even read the headline. Now,
Nope.
I don't even know if he tweeted it. It could have been one of his handlers. Or I don't know. Who knows? But it goes in line with his messaging. The second he sees something he thinks the Liberals did, he's going to jump on it and shit all over it. Best part is, though, it's a conservative policy.
Cassie says, here in Brandon, Manitoba, the school board stood up to the one trustee and her convoy supporters who wanted to ban books. Yes, thank you.
We need more of that, please.
Yeah. Again, we have to start running for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a concerted strategy to start with the school boards. So he's like, you got to show up at the school board meetings. You got to be there. You got to listen to see if that one parent's going to come up here and say that crazy stuff. And when they do, you need to put your hand up and say you go to the mic to provide the ratio. Because again, the people at the council only go by who comes by and who writes and whatnot. And if it's all of them that come, well, then they think that the problem's bigger than it is. And then they say, oh my God, I need to take action on that. So we need to be there to throw our bodies in there as well to saying, no, they're actually really nuts and they don't speak for us. It's get saucy. That's why school boards are very important. We need to encourage decent people to run for positions. And then you need to encourage other decent people to actually get out and vote for the trustees, because those are the elections where, even in municipal elections where the votes are low, there are people that don't fill in the trustee section.
Mm-hmm.
So a very, very small dedicated group with a bunch of people that are going to absolutely show up and vote can really, really just wrestle control of a school board away from a city. It's almost, and I know this because, for example, in Toronto, for example, the Toronto Pride Committee was wrestled away temporarily from the gay community itself. And then other causes became its main cause for a while. It's very, very easy. Or like that charity that True North Media bought.
Mm-hmm.
That was supposed to be used to relocate British expats or something like that. It seems that there's like at least the last article I read, which was from a while ago, there's still a tiny sliver portion of money I think that's used for that, but that's not what they do now. Let's be honest. Right? They're not relocating. They're not helping expats settle in.
No, they're not.
So, and well, of course, they get, because they bought a charity, well, then they get the charity tax credit, which is very generously funded by all of us. So we're actually subsidizing that if they are still a charity, because again, last I checked, they hadn't filed documents with CRA attesting to that. But I've never heard what has happened as a result of that. There's been no article in the news.
Of course.
So I don't know if they have updated their stuff and everything's fine, or they haven't, and Revenue Canada has just decided not to pursue it or something. But it just doesn't seem to me that charity is fulfilling what its original mandate is, and I'm not sure if they've updated their mandate and would they still qualify to be a charity under a new mandate. We don't know. All right.
And that's good to read, Cassie.
What?
Some of us progressive conservatives are pushing back on the reform conservatives.
Yep.
That's a good thing, because I know there's a lot of progressives left in this country.
Oh, yeah.
Left, and you get the joke. You get the joke there. Left.
Oh, man. Oh, God. Now you just reminded me of something about Tasha Caird, and so I'll try to find that for later. All right. Let's start with the video, if you will.
I did find Skippy's tweet. I just sent it to you, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just DM'd it to you on the Twitter.
Oh, on the Twitter. Okay.
It's in there. And I have the video whenever you're ready to roll. I can run it up.
All right. Just looking at Skippy's tweet here. Authoritarian wokeism is growing threat to our freedom. We must fight back to stop the censorship and restore free expression. Yeah.
He didn't even read the article.
No, he didn't read the article at all.
Like, not in the least, because if you go through it, you can see that it was like...
Okay. Now I have to. I'm sorry, because authoritarian wokeism is growing and a threat to our freedom. We must fight back to stop the censorship and restore freedom of expression. I'm sorry. I have to. Now you've made me pause myself, because yesterday, in addition to this, Mr. Freedom of Expression decided to take a swipe at QP.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Because he received criticism for having used the PA system directly from QP. And QP, if I remember correctly, really laid into him.
Oh, yes.
Really, really, really laid into him. So I think it was like an 8-point thread or whatnot on Twitter where they just...
And this one, yeah, like
Ontario.
Scratching your head, authoritarian wokeism, scratching the head. Like, what? How do you ponder that? Because they're contradictory. They're completely contradictory. Like, you can't be an authoritarian and be woke at the same time. It doesn't work.
Oh man, I tell you.
Yeah, I know. It's just what? I know two things can be different, but this doesn't. This is nonsensical. They're literally right.
Yep.
Double speak. Well, I like one of the comments here. It's clear that you didn't read the article, Pierre. This directive came from Doug Ford's Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce. You know, the same one who worked directly for Stephen Harper. And that's true.
Oh man. So yeah, QP made a statement, and then Pierre Poilievre at the WestJet decided it was going to revisit its policy after all of that. And then Pierre had the choice at that point when QP came out to either just let it go and let the story die. He got his viral moment, right? But no, he of the prosciutto thin skin and the oh so fragile ego, well, he couldn't stand that a union of all things,
which he's against and has always been.
Yeah, but he's been cozying up to them, hasn't he?
Of course,
right? He's the workers' guy. Well, he's been making inroads in there. Even like the NDP has been starting to panic a little bit. But the first time a union stands up and defends something, well, then all of a sudden, he's demanding an apology from the union.
Yeah.
And slagging it.
Yeah, I did see that.
So you can remove the glasses and you can put on the contacts and you can put on the I'm jacked girdle and you can overlay soft music on top of some commercials, but he just can't resist being a little bitch. There's a proverb in French, chasser le naturel revient au galop. That which is natural, which gets chased away, comes galloping back. He's a dick.
Oh, yeah.
He's a bag of micro dicks.
Yes, he is.
And he just can't resist. So all that work he's been putting in, like for the last year, I'm the workers guy, kind of just all torched that.
Yep.
He just
And he
decided to just flambe that because his poor little ego
couldn't handle it.
couldn't
I mean,
handle it being told that maybe on 9/11.
that
And you
was a
still
bad
got some
idea.
people turning around saying, oh, it was a chartered flight. It was not a chartered flight. If it was a chartered flight, it would
Wasn't.
be one thing. Because it was not a chartered flight. It was
That's
an
the
additional
backpedaling.
flight that WestJet put on the schedule. Yes, which was primarily filled with CPC convention delegates who were going home, but not exclusively.
Well, and you did see that thing floating around that I think you commented on, and I just sort of shook my head. It was like I'm like, there's no way there's any truth to that about how $5 from every ticket for WestJet goes to the CPC. I'm like, there's no way there's any shred of truth to that. No way.
Yeah, somebody's trying to stir the pot saying, WestJet president, because apparently they got the okay from WestJet to use the PA system from that, and that WestJet, and somebody was blaming the employees. I think, somebody was trying to blame the staff as well. So again, that'll work well for you.
Yeah.
Again. But yes, somebody was saying, "Oh yeah, you hear $5 from every ticket," and it's like, well, first of all, corporations can't make donations. I think Jacques Retzier took care of that, if I remember correctly. And there's something called fiduciary responsibility to shareholders.
Yes.
And any company that would willfully and so brazenly organize that type of fundraiser and then give the money is inviting a world of pain and hurt from their shareholders.
Yeah.
Participating
that's
in
my
such
money.
brazen violation of Elections Canada law. So yeah, that doesn't pass the BS test. Right? But it seems that we have pot stirrers on both sides. All right. Yeah, and I myself am not adverse to stirring a pot for two. After all, I did tweet that thing. Hey guys, looks like PP's pivoting. He may not be your guy after all. Did I do that? Hey, if we can sow a little doubt in the other camp and have them start fighting each other, I'm not against it. I'm not all angels and rainbows and lollipops. I am evil. I just use my powers for good. Okay.
This is a good thing that I'm thankful for.
Evil Queen Beaver. All right. Let's go to the Prime Minister, please. He has a message for our friends on the East Coast.
Okay, just give me a second while I get this ready to roll. And boom. And let's have a look at this video.
Our team has been having constructive conversations and talking about what we need to do to keep delivering for Canadians. We're ready for the return of Parliament. We're ready to roll up our sleeves and ready to keep working hard. Our focus is the same as it's always been, fighting for the middle class and people working hard to join it. We're here in a part of Canada that has seen tremendous growth over the past years. From Volkswagen's generational investment in nearby St. Thomas, where it'll build its first overseas electric battery gigafactory, to construction of the Gordie Howe International Bridge at the border in Windsor, to growth in communities all the way through southwestern Ontario, we're continuing to focus on creating great jobs for Canadians now and into the future. This is a part of Canada where people are proud to work hard and build the things that Canada and the world needs. A part of Canada that has always proudly celebrated its working class roots. Now, it's no different from a lot of places across this country. And the people here are facing a lot of the same challenges as in the rest of Canada, the biggest one being the rising cost of living. Au cours de la dernière année, on a offert du soutien ciblé pour aider les gens avec l'inflation.
So I'm sorry, that was the second clip I wanted to show. So there's nothing about the East out there, but that's fine. Mr. Grizzly, I unfortunately need you to talk for a little second because my Beaver Sweetie needs to grab a file.
Oh, sorry. I had my mute on. Sorry about that. Here I am babbling away and nobody can hear anything anybody I'm saying. Nobody can hear anything I was saying. Apologies. See, I need more coffee is the problem. That's the issue.
I couldn't hear you before I left too, but I thought it was just me. So I didn't say
No, it was
anything.
me. I had the mute button on the mixer. I just didn't realize because my mic was in my line of sight. I couldn't see it. See, I gotta rearrange the whole studio. I need new monitors and a bigger desk is what it boils down to. And I'm not eager to do it because it's going to cost me a lot of money. And that's going to take time and money, and I don't have it. There's other things that need to be taken care of first. But at some point in the near future, so let me rephrase that. At some point in the future, I'm going to have to redesign the studio just because I don't have enough space here anymore, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just keep adding more stuff to the desk, and it's like, okay, that can't. I don't know where I'm going to put that. So,
Oh man, did you? All right. So then, could you just go back to the beginning of it, because I do want to hear the people from out east hear what he had to say about that.
well, at what point do you want me to start? Because I had it queued up at 46 seconds, which is what you said.
Yeah,
you
I
wanted.
guess he said it right before. Yeah, I mistook. I made a mistake. That was my fault, not yours.
Where am I starting?
Right at the beginning.
Oh, at the very, very beginning?
Yeah, I just started at the beginning. Yeah.
All right, hang on a second here. It's got to reload itself. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, now I can show it to you. Hang on.
Merci. Merci, mes amis. OK. On a du travail à faire. Bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon. Before I begin, I want to mention, of course, that we are closely monitoring Hurricane Lee as it bears down on Atlantic Canada. Federal agencies are fully engaged and working with our Atlantic provincial partners. And I want to remind everyone to listen to updates from authorities and be there for each other, as Atlantic Canadians always are, during the tough times that we're facing this coming weekend.
All right, there we go.
It is so great to be back here in London, here in southwestern Ontario. Our team has been having constructive conversations.
You got to give me a signal, man.
I said, okay, there we go.
Oh,
Did you hear me?
I thought that's what you wanted. I didn't know you meant
Sorry.
stop.
Yeah, that was just
okay. There we go. Is like, there we are. That's what you want.
Oh man, we are having such a terrible show. Okay.
Remember, I'm very literal. You got to say stop.
All right. So that was the message I wanted to show at first, because that's going on. I want to make sure that people out east knew that the Prime Minister was on the case, that things are being done, that things are being handled. So that part. Now we're going to go to 220, about around 227, Mr. Grizzly. It's actually the first part of the actual announcement, what it is that he announced yesterday. So London was the $74 million to help build 2,000 units. I'm guessing it's the first bit of 50,000 unit plan that the city of London has. So that's happening. This is additional stuff to go along with this. All right, Mr. Grizzly, please.
1 second.
Pour la classe moyenne. The most expensive cost for people these days is housing. And the best way to tackle this is to make sure more homes of all types are being built. Yesterday, I announced how the City of London is going to be building more homes faster with the help of the federal government's Housing Accelerator Fund. And today, I'm announcing another big piece of our plan to build more housing. Now, more and more Canadians are renting, and the cost of rent keeps going up. Canadians need more buildings intended for renters, not just condos that turn into Airbnbs that are sold to foreign buyers as financial assets. So, I'm pleased to announce that we are going to be removing the federal GST for the construction of new apartment buildings, and I'm encouraging all provinces to do the same. This plan is going to get more apartments built in big cities, in small towns, especially along transit lines, and they'll make sure that there are units with 2 or 3 or even more bedrooms, the kinds of places families can live and grow. Cette mesure s'ajoute à tout le travail qu'on a déjà fait et qui nous a permis d'aider près de 2 millions de Canadiens à se trouver un chez-soi au cours des dernières années. Et on va faire d'autres annonces bientôt là-dessus aussi. Because all of us have to do more, as governments, as builders, as partners, while we create thriving communities. Minister Frasier is leading the federal government's efforts, but we're doing this as an entire team. MPs are a critical part of this work, and we will all be relentless in our efforts and use every tool in our toolbox to meet this generational challenge. Every community across Canada needs to build more homes faster so we can lower the cost of housing for everyone. Les Canadiens voient une augmentation de bien des prix ces jours-ci, surtout quand vient le temps de visiter l'épicerie. Le taux d'inflation a diminué, mais la facture est encore trop élevée pour la nourriture. Mais pendant ce temps-là, les grandes chaînes d'épicerie font des profits records. Ces profits-là ne devraient pas.
All right. So the first part in French, just to translate for those who had missed it, he said that the government has taken measures on the way prior to this, which have helped 2 million people find homes. He didn't specify what those measures were then. And then as he was continuing on in French, he was talking about the cost of living and groceries, whatnot, which was a second part of the announcement. Which we will get to. Kit James in the chat mentions here, is there a mandate on developers to actually pass those savings along to renters? That was not talked about that I know of, and there probably isn't, because that's the number one criticism I have with all of that stuff. Every time that the premiers talk about cutting the gas tax, cutting that, I keep on saying it's just another subsidy to the gas companies, because there's nothing in that mandate that forces the gas companies or the gas stations or whatnot to pass on that savings, and I do not see why there would be anything in this because there never is.
No, and look, there's a reason for that. And the reason is he, like every prime minister, is beholden to his corporate overlords. Whether people want to hear that or not, it's true. Because even though housing is not a federal responsibility, he said it would be, and he's basically dropped the ball on it. So he's doing something about it now. But this is not going to benefit renters in the end. It will benefit the developers, because they're just going to earn 5% more profit on everything.
Yeah.
So that's what it boils down to, right?
Yep. There's no guarantee that the costs will be passed on. Now, the interesting part in that announcement is, of course, he said he was doing that and also challenging provincial premiers to join in to remove the PST portion, right? So not just the GST, so that the entire HST will be removed. It's an interesting strategy move. 3 premiers have already indicated at the time yesterday that this press conference took place that they were going to join in on that. But we'll see where it goes. Now we get to about 5:16 around there, Mr. Grizzly.
Right, yeah, we're already there.
Okay, and it turns out, okay, great. Turns out that the Prime Minister, we get a bit of a true daddy moment. And I always like the true daddy moments. But the Prime Minister talks about a couple of other things that are in this plan. And I'm glad that I listened to this, because with all the news that I've been listening to, 2 of the elements of this plan were not mentioned at all.
Really?
In any of the newscasts that I heard. So let's talk about it.
Okay, just a second here.
It's not okay that our biggest grocery stores are making record profits while Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. So Minister Champagne will be calling on the heads of large grocers to come to Ottawa with a plan to address the rising cost of food. And we expect to hear from them by Thanksgiving on what their plan is to stabilize prices. And let me be very clear. If their plan doesn't provide real relief for the middle class and people working hard to join it, then we will take further action, and we are not ruling anything out, including tax measures. Now, businesses should be competing for your business, not unfairly profiting from it. So we're also taking the first steps to reform the Competition Act and make large businesses more accountable to Canadians. This is just another way we're fighting for the middle class to get a fair deal and creating new opportunities for small businesses. Speaking of small businesses, during the pandemic, we provided emergency loans to almost 1 million small businesses in our communities. While many have paid these loans back, we know that some need a bit more runway. So we're extending the CEBA loan repayment deadline by a year.
So the reform of the Competition Bureau a little bit, and the CEBA, which was like similar to CERB, but for organizations, for businesses during the pandemic, that didn't make any of the news reports that I was listening to yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I wonder why.
Don't know. And as Kit Cassie mentions here in the chat, accurately mentions, we farmers are not seeing profits of rising food prices. It's the grocery chains.
Yes.
It's been a while now. Even shipping costs have gone down a lot, but the prices in food had not gone down in a manner that was commensurate with the shipping. So, yeah, Kit Allen, farmers have never seen those profits. That's also true.
I believe we call that corporate greed.
Yes, at least not at the rate they deserve. Kid James, where the hell's Jagmeet? He should be calling grocery corporations disaster capitalists. He's been doing it with the limited amount of profile that the leader of the fourth party gets. But this is probably a little bit of his influence with the supply and confidence. He said that, he's been making these big pronouncements as how about he's going to be putting some pressure on the government to take some real action, all that kind of stuff. So this is probably a bone being thrown to that side. Again, not sure what it is that the grocers are going to be able to come up with within a month to stabilize prices and whatnot. So, but hey, like I said, there are measures that look and sound good. Not sure how they're actually going to be applied. Not sure whether or not the rebates will actually, be given, or they'll just be passed through donations. Thank you very much. We'll take that. 13% on a $1.2 million house, and thank you. That's a nice little bonus for us. We appreciate that.
And that's what it'll like. Come on, unless they have something in the mandated that has to be passed along to the consumer. It's just, that's all it is. It's just a 13% bonus.
Yep. So devil will be in the details there. All right. So, but it's really interesting that in the second part of this housing announcement, he actually is broadening it up to include other affordability issues. And this probably should have been things that he had done a year and a half ago, visually. But would they have been noticed at the time with everything else going on?
Probably not.
So part of political strategy is timing as well. And sometimes you let people suffer a little longer, a couple extra months longer for the timing. It does happen, unfortunately. All right, Mr. Grizzly, let's move on to it's probably Yep. Basically, that was pretty much where his announcement ended. Those were the main things. So we only spoke for about 8.5 minutes, and then he opened it up to questions. So around 8:38, I think, is the first question. I think we're just gonna watch them for the most part, um, and um, and make some stops there because there's some really interesting things that come out in the questions, and there's also you see journalists approach. Uh, the first two questions come out swinging at him pretty hard, just to let you know. Um, I'm guessing that it's starting to get that way with Ford too, but for a housing announcement, they're very, very good questions. Don't get me wrong, but it's just sort of like bang and bang. It's like, ooh, okay, we are definitely adversarial here with the prime minister and just trying to figure out, hoping, let's put it away, that that same degree of verve is now, at least now, going to be applied to both sides because during the Ontario election, it certainly wasn't.
Hmm.
All right, Mr. Grizzly. Like I said, I have no problem with journalists asking tough questions. I was just like, ooh, they're coming out swinging.
Yes.
Okay, so somewhere around 8:38, we start with Marika Walsh. She asks a question, has a follow-up, and even as she's asking the follow-up, there's another little in there.
Okay.
So,
Just a second. Here we go.
Nous avons 20 minutes pour les questions des médias et on va commencer avec Marika Walsh.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Your government, or you as the third place party in 2015, said that you as government would remove the GST from new rental construction and renovations. You broke that promise in your first mandate. Now, 8 years later, after saying that it wasn't evidence-based and wasn't needed, you're saying it is. Why should voters still stick with you over this?
In 2015, we made the commitment to remove GST on purpose-built housing, and we looked at how and what that would have an impact back in 2016, and we decided that building the RCFI, the Rental Construction Financing Initiative, would be a better way of getting things done in the context where they are right now. And that program has led to about 40,000 units being created across the country and led to affordable financing for people building purpose-built construction units. It was the right program at the time, and that's exactly what we did, and it continues. But now, given interest rates where they are, given the challenges that people have in building new apartment buildings, we realize it's the right time to step up with removing the federal GST on purpose-built apartment buildings. And we're calling on provinces, and we've heard already from a number of provinces that are going to do just that, and we will see GST and PST, or HST, eliminated from a large number of apartment building constructions across the country, which will help significantly reach millions of people into thousands of people into getting new apartments.
And on... I hope the clapping doesn't take away from our question time. On the grocery orders that you're putting in place, can you be more clear? It seems like you're just asking for cooperation right now. What specifically is your government considering?
Good question.
If you don't see that cooperation from the grocery stores, will you put orders in place?
I have to begin by thanking the hardworking MPs behind me who have made sure that grocery store CEOs of the big grocers were called into Ottawa to explain how they're making record profits while Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. We know there is more they can do, that they must do to keep food more affordable for Canadians. And that's why we're giving them an opportunity to come to Ottawa by Thanksgiving and tell us exactly what they're going to do to stabilize food prices across this country and ideally start bringing them down.
Here's what they're going to do. Not a goddamn thing.
We are confident that they will be able to come up with a strong plan to support Canadians. If they don't or are unable to, then yes, the federal government will take action, and we're not taking anything off the table. But I am confident that those large grocery leaders who are making record profits are going to step up for people in their communities from coast to coast to coast.
No,
Okay, stop it there. Well, if he's that confident, he must have had pre-discussed something
that's the only thing I
that
could
they've
figure.
agreed to do, because that's a big limb to go out on.
Yeah, it's huge. Because, come on, let's face it, these are profit-motivated individuals, and they don't care where they get it from. And each quarter, they want to see a larger margin. They want to see a bigger dividend check each quarter. So, look, unless he's got something, agreement in principle already that nobody knows about, a private conversation has taken place.
Or have been taking place for the last few months.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know, right? We're not privy to that information. But honestly, I can't see them doing anything. And that would mean, okay, well, then we're not taking anything off the table. The government will step in. And I'm like, what are they going to do, though? Privatize the grocery chain? They can't do that. Sorry, not privatize, but
Nationalize.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's a big difference there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, for those who are wondering, also when you mentioned the RCFI, that's the Rental Construction Financing Initiative. It's administered through the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. It provides rental construction financing so it provides low-cost funding to eligible borrowers during the most risky phases of a product development of rental apartments, construction through to stabilized operations. The minimum loan is $1 million and a maximum of 100% of loan to cost. The initiative focuses on standard rental apartments in Canada with general occupants where there is a need for additional rental housing supply. Now, remember, this GST cut, HST cut, if the provinces join in, is specifically for purpose-built rental units. So in that sense, in terms of passing down savings, it could more likely happen in terms of passing them on through lower rent, only because the property, the builder, whatnot, is still going to own the building.
Would it be one of those...
right.
Might be one of those things where, you don't need a first and last months when you sign. You just sign in with first month, and the rent will be fixed at this for the first year. Kind of like, those internet service providers that offer you the sun, the moon, and the stars, and then a year from now, it's like quadruple the cost.
Yeah, or subscribing to newspaper.
yeah. 99 cents a week. Well, I can afford $4 a month. Yeah, and all of a sudden, it's $40 a month. What? I didn't see that in the fine print. Oh, it's in the very fine print. Oh, and you can't cancel. You have to call us. You can't cancel online. Yeah, I'm just going to put it on a prepaid credit card and not put any money on that credit card. If you don't put money on your credit card, we've tried to build you. We couldn't. So if you don't, we're going to have to cancel you. Oh, is that a shame? That's a shame. It's a shame you're going to cancel me.
Because it's what I've been trying to get you to do for the past 2 months. So basically, at the time you made the promise, they looked at cutting the HST or GST off purpose-built rental. They looked at this. They decided that this program was going to do better at that time. Now we need this. It's basically what's going on. All right, Mr. Grizzly, the next one, I believe, is at around 12 minutes something. I'll just get that. Around 12:09.
Okay, just a second.
And I'm highlighting this one because there's a nice team aspect with this, and I hope that the Prime Minister does this much more often.
Okay, let's have a look at this then.
15. Yesterday's measure was a policy from 2018 that was in the budget, 2022 that was in the budget. So these delays would appear of your own making. The fact that you have fallen behind in double digits in the polls to the Conservatives, is that something that you need to take ownership of? Because you have delayed these measures that would have made life affordable for Canadians much earlier.
Okay,
I think what Canadians understand.
That was the second question that was boom. That one is not fair.
No, but at the same token, you notice his body language when she's asking the question. Look, he's smiling. He's pleasant. He's not afraid to take questions from journalists. He doesn't
But
get defensive.
no,
I mean, this is how you do it. Whether or not you agree with his policies, whether or not you agree with how he conducts his business is another story. But this is how you deal with the press,
yes,
because they're
because
trying to get the information to the people. You don't be combative with them. You take their questions and you answer them.
because this is if this was PP, it was like, oh, when was the second one again? 2002. What year is it now? 2000.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, so that was such a long delay, right? Such a long
Yeah.
delay. Yeah. So this one is basically, like both these things are things that you've announced in some capacity before that are happening now. So they're basically old ideas.
Mhm.
Essentially, is the suggestion there. I guess. And why did you drag your feet?
Mhm.
Like, why did you delay? Okay. So let's play the answer.
Okay, just a second. Linda's question, do they have the power to do national rent control, or is that too far stepping onto provincial toes?
Oh, premiers would scream bloody murder,
Oh, yes, they would.
and the country would love them.
Affordable for Canadians much earlier.
I think what Canadians understand is that the housing crisis requires everyone to work together. It requires provinces to step up. It requires municipalities to step up. We need to draw in the private sector as important parts of building housing, which is what removing the GST from purpose-built rental housing or apartment buildings is all about. We need to draw in the public sector, the not-for-profit sector, and see it continuing to succeed. So having these conversations and making sure we're building the right solutions for Canadians right now is what Canadians expect of an evidence-based government that is looking at the data and is responding with real solutions to real challenges. But for further discussion on housing, I'm happy to turn it over to Minister Frasier, who will talk about all the programs we're doing and why it takes time to build the right programs for Canadians. Sean.
Look, thanks very much for the question. I think one of the things that you've got to understand is that as circumstances change, so too must our response change. If you look at the circumstances we were dealing with after the 2015 election, as the Prime Minister alluded to, we thought we could get a better return on our investment through the rental construction financing initiative. There's been factors that have shifted over the course of the pandemic and since that have made it more expensive to build the kinds of homes that people can actually afford. By actually moving forward with removing the federal GST at this point in time, we're going to change the equation, and it's going to grow supply immensely across this country, but it's also going to change the kinds of homes that people build. We're going to see more apartments go up instead of condominiums that'll be rented out or held onto without somebody living in them. And we tend to see that apartments rent for a couple $100 less every month than their comparative condominium that goes up. This is a good deal, and I should say that already since news has broken that this is something we're going to be doing, I've received messages from Minister Calandra in Ontario indicating they're going to follow suit. I've received messages from Minister Callan and Premier Eby in British Columbia indicating they'll do the same. And just recently I've received a message from Premier Fury in Newfoundland and Labrador saying they're also going to do the same thing in order to reduce the cost of building. Federal leadership can drive change at provincial levels and municipal levels, and we're going to play that leadership role to help solve Canada's national housing crisis. Thank you.
Right, stop. Boy, did he handle that well, eh?
Yeah, he did.
He knows his file, eh?
Well,
Already.
he does, obviously. And what I find interesting is that the provincial counterparts have, in Ontario,
BC.
BC, and Newfoundland and Labrador have agreed to do the same. I'm like, well, that's interesting, especially considering it's conservative here in Ontario. BC is it NDP right now?
Yep.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And Newfoundland and Labrador is
conservative, is it not?
liberal.
It is liberal. I couldn't remember. I can't remember everything.
One NDP, one liberal,
And one conservative.
And it's
Interesting.
the exact three provinces, the same three provinces, who had that little grandstanding moment with the governor of Bank of Canada.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
BC wrote the letter first.
Mm-hmm.
Then Doug Ford was drowning and goes, oh, yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Then he started talking about separatism and hurting trans kids.
Doug Ford will redirect from the
yeah.
Green Belt anyway he
Yeah.
can.
And then the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador just, wrote a letter as well after all of that. Was the third one in. But this is across all parties. Now, Dave Wallace, if Dave Wallace were here, he'd probably say, well, that's because every single one of them is beholden, so they all agreed.
Yeah. Well, and that's the truth, right?
Well, but in terms of political stagecraft, you've just had a prime minister that is announcing an initiative that 3 provinces are join in. Quebec is on record saying that they're considering it, so it hasn't been the instant, no, you were meddling in areas of provincial competence and jurisdiction. Get out of here right away. It was we will consider this,
Which means it will be yes.
it will be yes because yeah.
They just have to look tough.
Yes, but for Quebec's first response not to be c'est une ingérence dans la compétence provinciale. You know, it's
Telling.
It's telling. Sometimes it's what's not said, kids.
Very true.
It's true. So interesting policy. And like I said, I just like, the prime minister go because he mentioned like government by cabinet a while ago. So it's like, well, here's the guidelines, but here, let's bring in the minister and he'll tell you. And he just like nails it down. Boom, boom, boom. And here's the thing that I liked about that is one, somebody noticed, Kelsey goes, oh, that was sassy. Evidence-based government.
Mhm.
Yes, as well. But also why it takes some time.
Mhm. Doesn't happen overnight.
All journalists, and especially the opposition, because it's easy. Like not all journalists, but it's like, you announced the program. Why hasn't it worked yet? Well, I just announced it.
Can we have a couple minutes, please?
It's like, you announced that carbon tax 5 or 6 years ago. Why hasn't it stopped hurricanes? Well, one, because I never said the carbon tax would stop hurricanes. And number 2, first of all, it has to be put in place. And then I need to keep it low enough so that it becomes a thing so that you guys don't yell and scream the entire time it's there.
And we need the rest of the world to do it too.
Yes. And the world has been talking about, there have been talks about global carbon tax. I've just been hearing about them again last week. It's coming up. People are talking about it.
Weren't we talking about that in 1990?
Yes, but people are talking about it again because it works.
Well, I remember in 1990, there was a thing during Earth Day of 1990, there was a big campaign. It says, we have 10 years to save this planet, reduce, reuse, recycle. And a lot of companies got on board with that.
Yep.
They still use plastic, but they changed the plastic containers.
Yes. So there's, darn, I forgot where I was going. Yeah, I got thrown off. Sorry.
Provinces.
Yep. I had a point. I did have a point.
My point, and I do have one,
Well,
is that I forgot what my point was.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. So Minister Frasier comes in. He's able to. Yes, exactly. Sorry, it was about programs needing some time, and it's a strategy you're seeing, like for example, with safe supply on drugs. It doesn't work. They just changed the law this year.
It's not digital. It's not on or off. It's analog. It takes time.
It's got to ramp up. Yes, some things are going to happen that are not going to be great because almost everything has some type of perverse effect somewhere along the way. Then you spot it, you try to address it, you make some adjustments, you like this, and then after about a year or two, you see where it's going.
Well, 25 years it took the rest of the country to sign on to a national daycare program like they have in the province of Quebec.
When the evidence was there all along.
Yes.
So let's just, and same thing with carbon tax. It's like, how long did BC have it before we put it?
That's right.
Right. So these are ideas that came from provinces, right? Childcare was supported eventually by the conservative government in Quebec. They didn't believe in it. They thought, even the liberals at the time thought, I don't know. And then it worked out well. Carbon tax was brought in by a conservative government in British Columbia.
Well, and don't forget
These are conservative ideas.
Stephen Harper had his greenhouse gas emissions tax, right? And the gas guzzlers tax.
Yes.
For big trucks. If you buy a big truck, you're going to have to pay a little bit more because you're a gas guzzler and you're contributing to greenhouse gases. But they tried to spin that when it was enacted by the Trudeau government, saying they're going to tax you for buying a truck. No, we're just instituting what your policy was from 15 years ago or whatever it was.
Yep. Now, there was one thing that the Prime Minister, when he was talking about it, it's an all-together job. He's
Mhm.
talking about different various levels of government and private sector and whatnot. He missed an opportunity to say, and yes, even you too, media, have a role to play in this. He should have brought them in. There was a moment, there was a
Oh,
time there. There was a moment there where you could have brought them in and made the people that are asking him the questions part of it too. And he missed that one. Like this, if as a communication strategist, when you talk about that, yeah, mention in media, you have a part to play too
mhm.
in this effort to make sure that we all get housing. Like maybe making sure that you're doing very responsible reporting and not poo-pooing on every idea right off the bat
Mhm.
just because of the ideological bent of your outlet. Just
Indeed.
saying. All right. Do we have something around 1532?
Let's see
Now,
here.
this is the first opportunity where journalists gives him an opportunity to lay into the PP and the Conservatives, and watch what our Prime Minister does.
Okay. This is going to be good then, I assume. I haven't seen it yet, so let's see.
That.
Well, first of all, there's always going to be room for political debate, and that's what political parties are always engaged in. But
I'm sorry.
Can we go back a little bit to actually get the question?
Started exactly where you asked me to, so.
Sorry, I misnoted the time.
CTV News has now been used in an attack ad. A woman of Prime Minister, you are in London, an MP for this area, is a woman of color, 32 years old, a single mother. Her lived experience in an interview with CTV News has now been used in an attack ad by the Conservatives. What does this show you about their game plan, and how are you going to counteract that?
Well, first of all, there's always going to be room for political debate, and that's what political parties are always engaged in. But what we're focused on right now is how we're going to deliver for Canadians. Canadians don't want to see politicians arguing back and forth. They want to see us rolling up our sleeves and delivering them the kinds of housing, the kinds of supports, the kind of aid on groceries and on competition and on small businesses that we're announcing today. This is just a start. We've got a lot to do. This is a government that has always been there for Canadians, to invest in a growing economy that works for everyone, invest in having Canadians' backs through difficult times, and we're going to keep acting. It's always important to have good debates, and the other parties are bringing that, but it's important as well that Canadians see real action, and that's what this government's delivering.
Let's stop there. Notice what he did?
You're going to
Well,
have to
first
tell
of
me
all, he
'cause I
pulled a
missed it.
Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go
You
high.
go high.
Yes. But then it's like Canadians don't want to see people fighting.
Mhm.
Pierre's calling the municipal governments gatekeepers. He's promising to punish them. He's promising that he needs to do something about the CMHC, those other gatekeepers. He's taking things that happen to other people and putting them in commercials in order to raise more division. Again, laying that groundwork. If PP continues, it's almost like that, in math class, if a train leaves Chicago going east at 70 miles an
Mhm.
hour and the train leaves, because if 2 years before an election, PP's got the volume up here at 10, keeps on screaming like this and attacking here and attacking that journalist and calling this person a gatekeeper, and the Prime Minister's down here leaving this way and saying,
Mhm.
hey, let's all work together. And oh yeah, isn't it great how things go when we all work in unity? When everybody goes, this people's doing this. Oh my God, look at how well. Gee, isn't it great that we're all working together? After 2
Mhm.
years, that becomes a contrast point.
Oh, yeah.
He's
Well,
laying the groundwork. These are seeds.
yeah.
The choice of language, those little words, Canadians don't
Mhm.
want to see, because it doesn't look like he's going, boom, roundhouse. Ah. It's more like he's working the body. Boom, boom, boom,
Mhm.
boom, 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 boom. When that roundhouse comes, and it'll happen at a time after PP screws up massively, because we know he will screw up massively, because we can
Of
count
course he
on
will.
that. there'll be another something like a MGTOW hashtag attached to an internet. There'll be something, right? Or using a person, doxing a Canadian by using their home and calling it a shack. There'll be something. He can't resist it. And there'll be one where he goes too far and I'll flat on it. He'll be like, oh my God, I'm about to fall flat on my face. And that's when the Prime Minister will come in. There you go. Poof. To the mat with you. Boom.
Roundhouse. Roadhouse.
Just because he's laying all the body blows right now. Just the slow one, just working the body, doing the work. You know, moving him around the ring. 2, 3, 4 rounds, get him a little tired. Poof. I like this. I like this. It's not what we want to see, because I'd really like to see the Prime Minister come out and just rip a freaking strip off him, like cathartically.
That's what we want, yeah. But this is the better way to do it.
There's 2 years.
Yeah. And why start now? That's stupid.
Well, and also, if you start with the volume at 10, where do you go?
Well, this one goes to 11.
That was PP's problem. We started at the volume at 10, and now they're trying to bring him down to like to a 6 or 7, so he has someplace to go up to this. But we see it happening like this, and then QP says something, and then he just can't resist, right? Like this, he gets these little spikes of 10 or 11. That little moment with that journalist. How? Tell me who? Got those? He just can't. He can't help himself, and that's what the Liberals are relying on. Right.
Well, it'll be an interesting 2 years, I can tell you that, because it is 2 years. It's 2 years to the next election.
It's 2 years. Yeah. Now,
Skippy won't last that long. There's no way he's going to be able to do 3 years in that position.
He won't be able to do 2 years like this.
No, God, no.
With the screaming and yelling and whatnot. He's going to have to come up with something. But I still don't see the only person that could be recruited at the last minute who's like sitting on the benches is Jason Kenney. Because there's absolutely nobody else in that party that has any profile whatsoever that would make them.
Here's the thing I would like to see instituted, and you tell me how you feel about this. But this is something I'd like to see instituted. 6 months before a federal election, all polling released to the public stops.
Yes.
Polling can be internal for each party leader, but it cannot be publicly released 6 months prior, because look what it got us in Ontario.
Yep.
Oh, Doug Ford's going to win a landslide. So a lot of people just said, screw it, and stayed home.
I'd be down for that.
I think polling should, a 6-month moratorium on it, like an embargo for 6 months prior to the election. And you know when the election is going to be called, right? So no polling 6 months prior. So that way people can make an informed decision.
Technically we don't, because turns out that all our fixed election dates law were kind of written in such a way that, well, it's not really
they're flexible.
Fixed.
I know. I get that. I do know that. But
they were written in I'm completely totally heterosexual unless it's been like 3 months and I have a couple of beers in me and
yeah. I know. It's really, they're broad based, really, but you get the spirit of what I'm going for.
Yep, absolutely.
Because right now the polls are saying the Conservatives are in the lead. Yeah, but the election isn't for 2 years. Yep. So who cares?
Yeah.
Like, really, who cares?
Yeah.
Is it a bragging right?
Because we all know, well, we don't all know this, but for those of us in those it's like mid-mandate, midsummer, just like that, those are the least dependable. Doesn't mean,
well, the House wasn't even sitting. So,
but I mean, it doesn't mean that there is nothing. It could be something, but if there's any one set of polls through an entire 4 to 5 year mandate that you're when the mandate is over, that typically will have mattered the least, it's the midsummer midterm poll. It just, so I mean, and then every now and then you get a government like, where it's very clear that they're going to be going out the door, and the midsummer midterm poll, if it's bad, it's bad and it stays bad. I mean, there are no hard, fast, universal rules.
No.
But we have a new leader on the other party who's not really new to politics, but still new to about 45% of the people, and they're kicking the tires at a time when people truly and genuinely are worried. I mean, if there's any time right now with the conditions that are out there right now where you're going to be looking at other options and saying, gee, what else is out there? It would be now. This is not abnormal behavior for the circumstances on the part of the public to be looking to see what the other party has. It's not at all. These are tough times. It's like you'd be silly if you aren't considering your options. But it's buyer beware, right? Go ahead, shop around, look at the other guy, take him out on a couple of dates, see. When you realize he's a sleazeball, then it's just yeah, but say, yeah, I have no problem with the Canadian public taking Pierre out on a couple of dates. See what he's like. Find out for yourselves. The more you get to know him, you probably won't like him. But hey, invest the time. Go find out. Don't take my word for it. I mean, I'd love it if you took my word for it. But I mean, it's like, don't just swallow whatever I say. Go find out. But then when you come back, because I'll be sitting there waiting to go, I told you so. See, did I lie? Did I lie? All right. We'll move on from that. I'm sure if there are more moments from that, I will bring them to you because I hadn't finished listening to it. But that's where I got at the moment, and it's you can see the planks. So for those of us who are waiting for the Prime Minister to actually have a moment and go out to a mic and actually, do it after 20 years of Pierre Poilievre, that's probably not going to happen.
No, it won't.
Yeah, but as Kitlin MCS here, I'm tired of being told what a shit place Canada is. As an immigrant, it's insulting because I chose this country. I hear you. I think a lot of Canadians are going to get tired of somebody telling them how shit their country is. I know. I am. Just like me, is getting pretty damn tired of allegedly heterosexual, allegedly cisgender, allegedly Christian, mediocre white men telling my rainbow family how it can live. Scott Moe. At some point, yeah, we're going to get tired of this.
A lot of people are tired of it, myself included. Look, I'm exasperated all the damn time, and we all know why. It's just it's the level of garbage that gets spewed on a constant and daily basis and goes unanswered, and that is the part that troubles me to no end. I'm so tired of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, kids, because it's been a little heavy, I have 2 bits of excellent news for you. The first one involves a former guest here at the Beaver Lodge, certain Mr. Jason Carman, if you remember him, who was the director of a movie.
Oh, yes. I was blanking there for a second.
From British Columbia. He stopped in for an interview, and we talked about his film. Well, it turns out his film got picked up for distribution, and it's being released nationwide today.
Excellent.
September 15th. He was just at the big film festival in Honolulu, Hawaii that he said he was going to, and it seems that he had a great time there. But yes, Golden Delicious, out in theaters nationwide, September 15th today. The reviews are really good.
Excellent.
I'm looking at intheseats.ca and letterboxd.com, and another one, Shadows on the Wall, co.uk. And all of them given it really well. Shadows on the Wall gave it 4 stars. 4 stars. I am just so happy for Jason.
Oh, yeah.
This is such good news for him.
Well, I'm really eager to see this film. I really do want to see it.
It is so good. It's well done.
You've seen it
Yes,
already.
yes, because I was judging the film festival, I got the screener.
Right.
So I got to see it. And then we got to see it again because it was the closing movie of the festival on the night we were announcing the awards. So we were there. So I actually saw it twice in about 3 days. Once on my computer and once on the big screen. And they also have a distributor in the UK and in Ireland that he
Oh, cool.
announced on March 29th. So, yeah, it's starting to go global. So, yeah, Jason, you sell that movie. Good man. But it just goes to show how long it takes to get a movie, right? Because he was at the Ottawa LGBTQ Film Festival in, I think, October of 2022. And he's been doing the festival circuit. And then in March, he gets a UK Ireland distribution deal. And now, I think somewhere in August, they announced a Canadian one. I'm not sure if he has an American one yet. But hey, it's just, and then when you think about, like, they were filming during the pandemic and all that, by the time you film a movie, I guess, or you start casting for a movie, and that's not even writing and getting it funded and greenlit and approved. Oh my God, it takes a long time. You have to really want to see that happen, don't you?
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's really not instant. Wow. But yeah, he's putting in the legwork. He's doing the work. He has a dream. He's trying to make it come true, and it looks like things are happening for him. So that's Canadians who make us proud. You go, Jason. And as you may notice, I am wearing something that has a little maple leaf on it.
I see that.
Yes, and it has a little. Let's see if I can.
Canada.
A little Canada on the back. You see, this is my official Team Canada tennis shirt. Because yesterday, the boys did it again, Mr. Grizzly.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Now, Sweden was a country that we were expected to defeat in the Davis Cup just based on rankings of the players. But we did another 3-game sweep. So we are 2-0 in the ties, and we are 6-0 in the games. And interesting fact, but Bjorn Borg's son was on the courts yesterday playing against
really?
Vasek Pospisil. Yeah, his son, Leo Borg. He's playing tennis. Pretty good player. He's still in the coming up the rankings, about 300 and something in the world. But in a couple of years, you're going to be hearing about Leo Borg. He played really well. But yeah, 3-0. So Team Canada has the day off today, and tomorrow they play Chile. It's looking very, very, very good because the top 2 teams in the pool advance, and right now they're all alone in the first spot. But because there are only 4 teams, it's really possible for everybody to end up with like a 1-2 record, or many teams to end up with 3 teams to end up with a 2-1 record, and one with an 0-3. So we have to see how things play out. But having won all 6 matches does put and only dropped 2 sets, I think, in the entire 6 matches. So the guys are playing really well. So hopefully we can qualify for the next phase, which will be in November, and that will give some time to our more marquee players to get back to health in order to be able to play it, because once you get to the final one, everybody pretty much brings their best. But yeah, today Italy is playing Chile, and those are the matches that we're watching. Because if Chile defeats Italy, then Canada is in pretty much no matter what, unless well, no, not no matter what, actually, because Chile is a really, really good team, and yes, Alexis Galarneau is really impressive, particularly in doubles.
I read that as Gatineau is really impressive.
Yes, Gatineau.
I'm like, have you been there?
Galarneau is the guy who was playing at the National Bank Open. He had gotten a wild card in the first round, and he was like really killing it. He was he was about to win the match. He was up 3-0 in the 3rd set, and then he started thinking about winning instead of thinking about finishing this match, what it would be like once he won, and then he blew it. He goes, and he realized it. He admitted it himself. He says, I got too far ahead of myself. Well, this time he didn't. This time he played the matches all the way through, and he's really impressive. And he's not a big guy. because he played doubles with Vasek Pospisil on the first day, and Vasek Pospisil 6'4". Like, you don't think when you saw Galarneau was like coming, I think he's up to his shoulders or something. So he's not one of these like really, really tall tennis players. These round niches or Gabriel Diallo's who's like 6'7" or 6'8", or John Isner's was 6'10", or popping, or who've been popping up. But you could you always see it when he's waiting for the serve, the way his eyes are like wide open. It's like, oh, he's intense. He's dialed in. So he has a good future.
I need to make a clarification on my statement from a moment ago before anybody gets upset. When I said I read that as Gatineau. I said, if you've been there, I'm not insulting Gatineau. I used to live in Gatineau. I love Gatineau. It's beautiful. I just wouldn't describe it as impressive, but it is beautiful. And I did live there for a number of years. And I still go to the Gatineau Hills constantly to go for a hike, go for a swim. Where I go skiing is in the Gatineaus. So I just want you to understand, I was not slagging you off there, Gatineau. I love you dearly. And I spend a lot of time and money in your province, in your region. So just let's get that out of the way, okay? I was not slagging you. I went for a cheap joke.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Well, we're also not against that.
No, we got to have humor. I mean, and people who live in Gatineau would have a good sense of humor and probably go, yeah, I wouldn't say we're that impressive.
All right. So getting back to the housing issue, I wanted to read something to you because it comes from Evan Scrimshaw. And the reason why I want to read it is because I read it after we did yesterday's show, and I basically went out and I took a position. I said, this might be a good strategy day. Liberals did some good work yesterday. That's the London announcement, and I'm saying they're doing more good work. Well, I hadn't read this from Evan because it came in after. But once again, violent agreement. So, Abacus Housing and the best Liberal day of 2023 on the GST announcement. It's a sign of the times we're in when it's almost assuredly correct to say that the best day the Liberal government has had in 2023 is also the day a poll puts them down 15%. But it's true. The reason it's true is simple. The Liberals are finally starting to put up a fight on housing issues with yesterday's announcement that an end to exclusionary zoning is a requirement for federal funds being met with action, as Sean Fraser warns Calgary in a letter to get its shit together or they won't get the funds they want. Oh, and they're finally taking the GST off the construction of new rental apartment buildings. Housing experts will do a better job of explaining the benefits of the moves, though the benefits of rigging the incentives to make rental apartments better builds than condos or even single families should be obvious to all. But this is the first time the Liberals have looked even remotely aware of the way their coalition is thinking on this issue. And anything that makes them seem like they're finally understanding is a good day. Will it be enough? In isolation, no. But I do not know, but as someone who has been a pretty distant Kremlinologist of the Trudeau government, I strongly suspect that we'll remember today's abacus, but not for its prescience. There are two types of polls that look really odd in retrospect. Polls like the old Forum run in the 2015-19 Parliament, where they could consistently, every single time they released, have results at least 4 to 8 points more conservative than anyone else. And then there's the ones that were probably accurate at the time, but events moved them on. Abacus had the CBC at 25% in the summer of 2021, for example, before the Liberals called the election and pissed away goodwill with traditional Tories who viewed them as semi-apolitical because of the pandemic. A lot of Liberals are hoping Abacus is to this Parliament what Forum was in the Trudeau majority, even if they wouldn't use that language. They desperately want Abacus to be wrong, but they're not. They're probably not perfectly correct, but no poll is. But I suspect this poll will end up as an oddity because today's suite of announcements don't look like a government content to take its defeat lying down. Like, ignore the polls for a second. Less than a month ago, Mike Moffat was at the Liberal cabinet retreat, and now the government's announcing a pretty important housing reform. It's won one stare down with the city council to end exclusionary zoning by refusing to fund projects without it, and it's probably about to win another in Calgary. And let's be honest, Calgary Council will fold. They need the money. And now there's talk of some form of effort on grocery prices with some CEO summit in Ottawa and vague tax threats if they don't comply. I am skeptical of whether this can work economically, but for people who talk about the government being in some way out of gas, this isn't that. This is a day where the government has come out swinging, putting aside the merits of their decisions. The idea that they'll take this lying down is nonsensical, nor is the idea Trudeau is going anywhere. Let's be clear about the mythical idea of replacing Trudeau. It's a huge risk, and people are focused on the upside and not the down. We have survivorship bias in our memories with leadership changes that righted the ship, Dalton to Kathleen, Campbell to Clark, Kenny to Smith, but we ignore the much less successful ones. Anyone remember the winning campaigns of Bernard Landry or Ernie Eves? Remember Jim Prentice's immense success in 2015? Remember the great election legacies of Gordon Brown, Kevin Rudd the second time around, Kim Campbell, John Turner, Arthur Mahan, and Frank Miller? Oh, wait, no, you don't, because those changes didn't work. We see it now with New Zealand Labour. The bump of a leadership change lasted right until the moment it needed to, also known as the election campaign starting there. The best chance the Liberals have of winning the next election is not some elaborate behind-the-scenes machinations or clearing out the PMO, but by people doing the jobs currently focusing more on the shit that matters. The last 36 hours of announcements are the first sign in a while they can gain the laser focus they've had before with their backs when their backs are up against the wall. The idea that this government is somehow dead, that the die has been tossed, is ludicrous because many of the same people gleefully throwing dirt on Trudeau were the same mocking Notley optimists mere months ago. They were, of course, right then and wrong now, because as Smith had time on her side, so does Trudeau. The question for me about the Liberals hasn't been whether they have time to come back, but the capacity. Today dispelled those questions pretty clearly. What we're left with is an imperfect answer to the broader question of what the next election looks like, but I feel confident it won't be a blowout. And the reason is simple. This government has some fight left in it. If you're a nervous but not catatonic Liberal, your priors shouldn't shift much based on today. If you're a fatalist, today is a problem for you. None of this is an argument that the Liberals will win the next election. If an election was tomorrow, the Liberals would get smashed. But the election isn't today. And ask any Conservative in Alberta how a cocky, cocksure opposition that thought they could cruise to re-election did when the government got its head out of its ass. Abacus is obviously yet another sign that the status quo was disastrous for the Liberals. Fortunately, today also shows the limits of midterm polling. They're snapshots, not predictions. The Liberals are finally in the ring with a serious and credible start to a housing strategy. If today's all they do, they're fucked. But as the beginning of the road back, the Liberals won the day today. And fucking hell did they need it. I could not agree more.
Yeah, no kidding.
I could not agree more. And considering that the Conservative response to yesterday's announcement of $74 million was, oh, that's not going to do anything. That safe supply didn't fix the program. Your carbon tax didn't stop hurricanes from happening. It's not going to work. It's never going to work. Everything you do is shit. We gave it all of 30 seconds. It's failed. It's failed. Your government program has failed. It would need 1.5 years to actually work its way through the system, but we gave it all of 2 weeks. It's done. Call it. I'm a death. It sucks.
They want everything instantly.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I have something for you.
All right. But good work from Evan. Good work.
Yeah, no, great. As always, right? I have something for you you'll find interesting. I'm going to put this on the screen, then I'll read it to you in a second. This is an additional entry into the mandated series from Global News on the mandate letters.
I'm behind on that part.
This one just came out. When Ontario Premier Doug Ford first took office in 2018, his first environmental minister was given a simple yet central task: get climate legislation out of the way of business.
Whoa.
The mandate letter, written for the province's Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, suggests his task was to remove environmental and climate legislation, not to create more of it. The contents of the mandate letter have been closely guarded by the Ford government since it was given to the minister in 2018. It can now be exclusively revealed by Global News as part of the ongoing mandated series. Wow.
What did I say? Did I not call it?
Oh, yeah, you did.
First day that letter came out,
did.
the service strategy. That's it. Oh my God, I can't believe it. What a sucky thing. No. Let's just wait. You got brackets with 3 dots in there. Those things are not in that article for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm going to put a link to this article in the chat. Anybody who wants to go in and read it in detail.
Okay, so is that the first mandate letter that's been released, or have they released others already?
No, this is just further. This is the this is just further. I don't know. I haven't read through the whole thing yet. It just came across my feed, so I wanted to get it out. So it's in the chat. Anybody wants to click on it and give it a good read, and by all means, give us your feedback, because old Dougie's going down for this one.
Isaac,
amongst a dozen other things.
Yeah. Now, we've been talking about Colin DeMello a lot because he's named like this, but the other journalist that I didn't get to mention, give credit to, because you need to give credit for good journalism, Isaac Callan. So it seems that they are working together on this. Isaac Callan is an online digital broadcast journalist for Global News. He joined in 2022 after covering local news and politics for the Pointer and Peel region. Before moving to Canada, he studied history at the University of Glasgow in Scotland. In his spare time, Isaac enjoys following soccer, traveling, and history books. So there you go. Just because he's a journalist whose name I hadn't heard before, Colin DeMello, I've known. He's been a mainstay.
Well, he's been on television for a number of years too, right?
But well, gee, how interesting is that? I think now we're getting an idea of why it is that Doug Ford wanted to keep those mandate letters so damn quiet.
Oh yeah.
Get environment out of the way of business. Well, that sure adds some color and texture to the Greenbelt file now, doesn't it?
Phillips was asked to work with other ministers to look at, in quotation marks, various pieces of environmental legislation that impact businesses, end quotation, and make sure the laws and regulations are, begin quotation, as flexible and nimble as possible, end quotation. He was instructed to make sure environmental assessments, a complicated set of studies designed to predict the impact of new projects on the area around them, could be completed within a calendar year. Ensure these regulatory and legislative requirements are not placing undue burden on Ontario's job creators. Ford's orders to Phillips read.
Wow.
Yeah, this is why he went into the Greenbelt, because he didn't give a shit.
Wow.
As long as his corporate overlords, the developers, his wealthy donor class are happy, Doug's happy. Get those things out of the way. Look, the building wouldn't have burnt if you had made it out of asbestos.
These people. Ah, shit.
That's an actual quote from Trump, by the way.
Yep.
An actual quote, because he didn't want to pay for sprinkler systems, so he didn't put them in a building. But if you had made it out of asbestos, it wouldn't have burnt. Oh, jeez. You guy's an idiot. Yeah, maybe the building wouldn't have, but the stuff in it is still flammable.
Yep. Like
unless everything in your house is made of asbestos, it's going to burn.
It's like the end of the Poltergeist. It's like, you removed the headstones, but you didn't move the bodies.
Yep.
It's just... all right. Also, on the housing stuff, for the first time in the province of Quebec, there's going to be a grand municipal summit on homelessness that will bring together elected officials as well as community and institutional partners. To open the summit, Premier François Legault announced some measures. He also mentions that there are about 10,000 homeless people in the province, which is double the rate of about 4 years ago. Yesterday, we were talking about how in London, the mayor said that the number of homeless people rose from about 300 to 2,000 over the last 4 years. So they've announced, the Ministers of Social Service and Housing of the province of Quebec announced $20 million to help set up more shelters. Gabriel Nadeau-Dubois, who is the leader of Quebec Solidaire, and Marc Tanguay, who is the interim leader of the Liberal Party of Quebec, accused the Premier of dragging his heels. But the Premier has defended himself by saying that his government has put $3.8 billion into housing and hinted that there are more measures to combat homelessness that will be announced in the November economic update. The mayor of Quebec City and mayors of Montreal, Bruno Marchand and Valérie Plante, are already asking for some of that money because they kind of need it. Cities are not in the best state at the moment.
No.
So that was a little more there. Moving away from housing, let's see what we got. Because we were talking about Scott Moe in Saskatchewan as well. There's an organization, I believe it's called the UR Pride Center for Sexuality and Gender Diversity. at the University of Regina, who is officially challenging Saskatchewan's new school pronoun policy in court. They've decided to bring the case to court. They say that this move violates charter rights when it comes to equality.
Well, we started the show with that, basically.
Yeah.
How, he's basically using the notwithstanding clause to screw over children's rights.
Yeah. So this is an August 31st article in the CBC titled Legal Action Filed Against Saskatchewan Government Over New School Pronoun Rules by Jeremy Symes of the Canadian Press. Bennett Jensen, who's the director of legal for EGAL Canada. EGAL is Equality for Gays and Lesbians Everywhere. It's a national LGBT advocacy organization, says this policy is, on its face, unconstitutional. There's also the more human response, which is that it puts gender-diverse students in a position of real risk. We know that they will experience harm if this policy is allowed to go into effect.
Mm-hmm.
In its application, the UR Pride said the rules are not justifiable under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and deny gender-diverse students basic entitlements in a free and democratic society, which includes, quote, a safe and welcoming educational environment in which to be themselves. The organization says the policy outs children who aren't ready to express their identity to their parents or others, putting them in a potentially harmful situation if they're not accepted. Lawyers from both sides are set to be in court for a case conference on Tuesday, but that was August 31st, so that has happened already. That happened in early this month, the conference. Quote, this is again Jensen, who's from EGAL, saying, this policy presents an impossible choice: be outed at home or be misgendered at school, even in one-on-one counseling sessions with school personnel. Yeah, that would be a little odd.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing that's why a lot of school personnel, particularly social workers, whatnot, don't want to sign on to these things, because you're actually going to send the kid to us for help and you're going to force us to misgender them.
Yeah.
As we're trying to help them. I don't see how any good could come of that. Either outcome entails devastating and irreparable harm to a vulnerable young person. Now, the Saskatchewan government and all of the province's 27 school divisions are named as respondents in the application, and it states that the respondents have a right to state their response on court on September 14th, which was yesterday. In an email statement, the Saskatchewan Party government said it remains committed to the policy. Quote, the government maintains its position that parents and guardians have a key role in protecting and supporting their children as they grow and develop. Nobody denies that that's the case, but this has nothing to do with that, and will do everything in its power to protect parental rights, which are not a thing.
Not a thing.
They're just not a thing. Jensen of EGAL keeps on saying, nobody is arguing that parents shouldn't be involved in their children's lives. We know, especially in the queer and trans community, how important it can be to have some supportive families in the picture. We're just really talking about making sure that young people have a sphere of privacy and independence to figure out who they are and do that at their own pace. UR Pride says it's requesting it be granted public interest standing as the organization believes the changes are substantial. It filed the application with support from EGAL Canada and assistance from McCarthy Tetro LLP, a law firm with expertise in the charter. McCarthy Tetro, is that the same one that Charest works
Not
for?
sure. Not sure.
But I've heard that name before, McCarthy Tetro.
Mm-hmm.
The policy represents a dramatic and regressive change from existing practices in Saskatchewan school districts, the application said. Teachers and school personnel were able to use and did use in practice their professional judgment to adopt the best course of action in the circumstance. Teachers and other school personnel thus could and did play an invaluable role in helping students feel safe. It said it appears the government did not properly consult before enacting the rules. The new policy also creates a situation where LGBTQ youth are singled out. The application said as the preferred names and pronouns of non-transgender students are, quote, consistently and automatically respected and observed within the school environment. The policy therefore creates a clear distinction based on gender identity and expression. I never thought of that argument.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Well, sticking with that theme.
Okay.
I have something that's, it's in the same theme. It has to do with children. And I'm not going to do a deep dive on this because we don't have the time, but I thought it was worth mentioning. The moral failure of the Boy Scouts of America.
Mm.
This is by Steve Schmidt. I'll put a link in the chat in a second. And he says, I am an Eagle Scout and a proud Boy Scout who came face to face with my predator at age 12. The first thing to understand about the Boy Scouts of America is the scale of the abuse. It is epic. In fact, it beggars imagination. It dwarfs the Catholic Church sex scandal by victim count and establishes the Boy Scouts of America as the largest pedophile organization in human history. I literally can't believe I just wrote those words, yet they are true. They opened up the phone lines for people to report that they were victims of abuse while Boy Scouts. Currently, the number is known. There are claims from 82,000 known victims. Yeah.
Wow.
That is an epic scale of abuse. That's 82,000 known victims. Many have long since shuffled off this mortal coil. Their story will never be told. They will never get justice. They will never confront the people who abuse them. I put the link in the chat for those who want to read it. It is, it's a tough one. It's not an easy read. It's a tough one. If you want to read it, by all means, feel free to do so. It's a difficult one. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's necessary that we do our best to protect children. And what do we have over in Manitoba? Scott Moe trying to do, Saskatchewan. Scott Moe trying to do his best to remove protections against children.
Yep. And Heather Stephenson, who's in an election campaign, has also been musing loud about that as well.
And now Doug Ford's doing it.
Yeah. Just on the thing that Scott Moe was mentioning about using the notwithstanding clause, the federal justice minister, Arif Rani, came out, shouldn't use that word, but made a statement, said, as a father of two, he understands the desire for parents to be involved in the big decisions their children make. But he says, quote, what I don't appreciate is having the insertion of a blunt instrument like the notwithstanding clause into that equation. I don't think that that's appropriate. So it seems that the federal government has taken a step. Mr. Premier Moe says, but you can have the assurance that the government will utilize any and all tools available up to and including the notwithstanding clause should it be necessary to ensure this policy is in place for the foreseeable future. The Justice Minister, Varani, says, we just have a policy that hasn't even been codified into law. Let these processes run their course before we even started to talk about that. Jensen of EGAL, Bennett Jensen, with regard to using the notwithstanding clause, says, that would require government saying that they are using the notwithstanding clause in order to intentionally, knowingly violate the charter rights of children, which strikes me as a wholly unconscionable thing for government to do.
Yep.
Again, we can't disagree. Jensen argues that the Saskatchewan government is violating the charter rights to equality as well as the right to life, liberty, and security of the person.
Indeed they are.
It's really important that we get clear court direction about how the rights of gender diverse students operate in this context. And my hope that this is guidance that can then be brought to premiers of other provinces who are seeking to pursue similar policies.
Be right back.
All right.
Back just a second.
I know Mr. Grizzly has a meeting coming up, so I'm going to start wrapping up the show, kids, because we have a show for you. We hope that you enjoyed listening to us because we loved making this for you. Of course, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please let your peeps and poops know about us. Thank you so very much for all that you're doing to help promote us. We really, really appreciate it. We see the retweets. We appreciate every single one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If you would like to subscribe, please, the QR code that just appeared brings us to the pod page, which is sponsored by the Ray Girl. And that's where you can subscribe and make sure that you do not miss an episode. As soon as there's something fresh off the bandwidth, we'll send it right to you. And that squiggly by Mr. Grizzly's head brings you to our coffee page where you can make a donation to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund. Because, and I did read the comments yesterday, to keep us lubricated.
That's James's new porn name, Lubricated.
Lubricated. Sorry, I got a cough.
Lubibrious is another good word. I like that one.
Which one?
Lubibrius. Did I say that?
Lubibrius?
I may have said it wrong, but you know the term I mean.
Lugubrious.
Lugubrious. That's it.
Is it? Yeah, I think so. I think it's lugubrious. Lugubre. I always have to think in French. So yes, if you'd like to encourage us to do more, go to our coffee page. That's the squiggly that appears by Mr. Chris's head. And that's where you can make your donation to the hydration fund. And if you are listening, you go to ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, lowercase letters. And if you are interested in subscribing to other things, make like Kit Elaine and go to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube site and smash those buttons. We have 3 of them for you. Like, share, and subscribe. Our 3 favorite words other than free beer today.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's where you can make your contribution, as have some lovely kits. I'm seeing them coming in. Unfortunately, on this new computer, for some reason, I'm having difficulty accessing the donation page to read your comments. So when I'm able to do that, I will thank you all personally. But to the 3 of you who have made some donations over the past few days, thank you so very much. And we will give you proper credit. We promise. All right. Because democracy is something that you do, make sure, as Kit Cassie says, today's your last day to check to see if you're on the registration list for the election in Manitoba. So please do that. Write to your MPs, donate to the Red Cross, all the good stuff, please. And if you like I said, make sure that you take some time to show up at your school board meetings and city hall meetings so that you can be an extra voice if there are some people there that decided that their path to elevating themselves also goes through holding transgender children's heads underwater.
Indeed.
We don't like that. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourselves. Mr. Grizzly, some words of wisdom.
Yes. I'm going to be talking in depth over the next few shows next week about this book that I'm reading.
Oh, you are reading it. Okay.
Yes. I ordered it. I received it. I've just started to read it, and it is all about the religious right, the zealous religious right in Canada, and how they were trying to take over our government. This is a frightening book. This is a horror book like none I've ever read before, because this is real and it's happening, and they are trying to strip people's rights away. So I suggest you, if you can go to the library and pick up a copy. If you have to purchase it online, you can get it at Amazon. It's a book that should be read and shared, and people need to know what's going on in this country and how these people they want Gilead. It's what they want.
Yep. And kids, if you were paying attention, Mr. Grizzly had a little Freudian in there. He said coffee instead of copy. So make a donation. He needs it bad. Lane asks, is Mr. Beaver on Casual Friday this evening? I'm hoping to be. We are traveling this evening, and I will be at my Beaver father-in-law's home, which doesn't really allow much for quiet space. He does go to bed very early, so I'm going to try my best.
Yeah, I might pop in for a little bit tonight if I have the time. I got a lot on the plate today, but I should be able to pop in for a little bit just to let James know. I'll swing by and say hello.
Yep. Okay. And there was something else. Oh yes, Kitland M tells us it is indeed lugubrious.
Yes, lugubrious.
There we go.
It's looking or sounding sad and dismal.
Oh,
that's what the definition of it is.
Like when the technology works and I can't do the show.
Yeah. You're rather lugubrious.
Mr. Grizzly, roll them credits, please. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum. And The Peppermaster, Hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. All right, kids. You guys have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Just sending some good thoughts to the people up in Northwest Territories who are making their way back home. And our thoughts for everybody on the East Coast who will be dealing with Hurricane Lee. Please stay safe and don't take any risks just to get some things that might go viral. Just remember, just keep yourself safe. All right.
Safety first. I got to go. I got a meeting. I'll see you later.
Gotta love you. Bye.